The Great Answer by Lillian de Waters, 1940. Chapters 33 to 37, and end of book. The Atonement. Atonement is oneness and allness. Herein we are redeemed from the dream of a material existence by functioning in the state of awareness as the one whole and all. Atonement is the bringing of everyone and everything into the clear perception of purity, perfection, and reality. Together with our infinite perfect creation, we are to live in the world of spirit, nor ever be completely satisfied and at peace until we do so. As exemplified by Jesus, the atonement presents the self as Savior and Redeemer, liberating itself and its world by enforcing its true spiritual awareness and the power thereof, bringing all thoughts, ideas, and things into the reality of oneness as allness, and allness as oneness. As the word is spoken, not to heal, nor to regenerate someone, but in confirmation and glorification of the Self as all power in heaven and on earth. So atonement is not to banish or wipe out evil as though it were something, but is the justification of the Self in its right to be a law unto itself. Verily, the Almighty Power. In our night dreams, our characters are wholly fictitious, totally void of life, truth, or reality. Not so with the so-called dream of a material existence, wherein the characters appear as multiple personalities or human beings. These are not void of reality, for reverting to the true state of the self, we know all to be the self and no other. Talk to yourself as the self. Tell yourself, I am Almighty Power. I am Sovereign Authority. I am Sublime Mind. In my infinity, there is no illusion of any kind, no darkness, no dream. I am that I am. I am that perfection to which nothing can be added, nor anything taken away. I see not many, but everything to be the one, myself. I praise and glorify myself as infinite in being, encompassing infinite life and its infinite expression. I am aware of life at every point to be the self and no other. Life at every point to be perfection, harmony, peace. I love my infinite self as the whole. I redeem my world by seeing everything in it bright as the shining light, pure as the spotless Christ. Upon this rock I stand, nor shall I do otherwise. Upon this rock or understanding I establish the infinitude of being, inclusive of its identity everywhere, the one infinite whole, everywhere the same. Whereas before there appeared multiple personalities and their discordant conditions, now before me is the one spiritual selfhood and its perfect spiritual identities. Mind in its true state as the infinite, indivisible whole. Atonement, therefore, is mind embracing all as the one infinite selfhood. Mind seeing, thinking, feeling as the infinite, perfect whole. Atonement is our relinquishment of all assumptive thinking, our return to the Father's house, the self remaining perfect mind forever. O thou great, eternal, ever-loving, never-changing love! Thou art the infinite I, the one who is the whole, the one in whom there is no personality, no individuality whatsoever. Atonement is the direct perception of this infallible, undefiled, imperishable, and ever-existing love, which thinketh no evil, feeleth no evil, seeth no evil of any kind. To this love, which is all-embracing, all-encompassing, boundless and immeasurable, all is peace, all is harmony, all is purity and perfection always. Verily, I live in this love, I think in this love, I feel in this love, and all sense of individualism vanishes, submerged in this infinite sea of love, of heaven, of reality. Preach the gospel. Inasmuch as Christ commanded that we preach the gospel, exactly what did he expect us to preach? Naturally, to carry on his message. Concisely as follows: I am the light, ye are the light. I am not of this world, ye are not of this world. I and the Father are one. We are all one in the Father. The works that I do, ye shall do also. Where I am, ye may be also. Did Jesus establish any form of church whatever? No. When questioned directly regarding his idea of worship, he replied, quote, "The hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. The true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth." John 4:21-23. Church organizations, therefore, are not in accordance with the Christ message, but contrary to it. In fact, forms of any and every kind denote limitation, restriction, bondage. From such as these, Jesus came to save us. Suppose we consider such forms today, their doctrines and destiny. Do any of them proclaim the message of the Christ, which was and is, I am the way, the truth, and the life? Do any of them teach that being is one and not many? That we are God and not man? No. Based as they are upon a form of worship not inclusive of the whole Christ truth, they uphold individual leaderships and authorities, and diversified attention is given to multitudinous personal modes and methods. They who believe themselves to be human beings or individuals erect churches, attend and support them. But those of us who are willing to renounce such position find that we are that which we are seeking, namely God. Instead of the general present-day doctrines of individual regeneration, Christ taught that we are not individuals at all, but are one indivisible whole. Any attempt, therefore, to become that which we are already is futile. Churches, then, are not to be preserved nor perpetuated, since their foundation is based on a false premise. Furthermore, Jesus' prophetic words are now about to be fulfilled. Quote, Verily, I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Matthew 24:2. The upheaval apparent in the churches today signals their time is short. Because of their failure to recognize and expound the great truth of the gospel, that we are not human beings to be saved or perfected, nor individual identities to be reformed or spiritualized, their doom is inevitable. Since the infinite, perfect mind is not divisible, then it is not separated into different persons or individuals called men, women, or children who must perfect themselves in a material world. Outside or beyond the belief in fear, for instance, there is no fear, nor any suggestion of it. Such belief arises only because we do not take full possession of the mind which we are, and function therefrom. Inasmuch as there is no possibility of fear in mind, then by virtue of the fact that we are mind, we have no fear, nor could have. Furthermore, without a belief in sin, disease, and death, they could have no chimerical appearance. The single way to put a stop to them is for one to cease enacting the false believer. Until then, he will be unable to apprehend that there is no human mind, sleeper, nor dreamer. So long as anyone personifies a sleeper or false believer, he is liable to limitations and restrictions, and moreover unable to fully discern the great truth of being. Nor can he release himself from such bondage and ignorance until he unifies himself with the divine mind, which of necessity knows I am God, and there is none else. Isaiah 4:22. Mind was never made subject to sleep, nor ignorance, dream nor disbelief, and mind is our very own. Is this not so? Therefore, our thoughts are unmixed, pure, and perfect, into which no darkness can come. The Self, that is Almighty Mind and Immaculate Being, cannot fear, sleep, nor dream. We must concede, therefore, there could be and is no fear, no false believer, no sleeper, no dream. Naturally, since we are the truth, the one and only mind, we cannot believe falsely. This we must know. The true self knows the truth, and is the truth, and is the power and authority thereof. Our whole aim, therefore, should be to think and live as the truth. Then we shall no longer feel as two, but as one. Our thoughts shall necessarily be right and true, and our understanding clear as crystal. As the truth, the mind of infinite love and harmony, I do not sleep, dream, nor have any false belief, nor am I subject to them. As the truth, which is the whole, I know myself to be pure and without guile. Myself, with its ever-luminous vision and irresistible power, I continually praise and glorify, exalt and magnify. The mighty God, the everlasting Father, is truly my only being, my endless life, my ever harmonious thinking, feeling, knowing, and expressing. Inasmuch as this indivisible being has no fear, there are no false believers, none to be afraid, none to sleep. Inevitably, being and its identity remain the forever perfect whole and all. Thus I come gently, yet mightily, into the full realization and import of the significant command. Fear not, I, the Self, am you always. Heal the sick. Inasmuch as the gospel is now preached from the premise that we are humanity and not spirit, imperfection and not perfection, the many and not the one, how then can it ever be expected to rid the world of sin, sickness, and death? As men, we are inevitably subject to vacillation, illusion, and errors of every kind. Therefore, as men, we can never free ourselves from them. Not until we waken to our real entity and function in our true nature shall human experience cease. The true viewpoint corrects the false, which, being corrected, disappears. Think of the vast amount of time, labor, and effort now given toward the destruction of sickness, sin, lack, and limitations everywhere. Instead of giving all attention to the self, in which they do not exist. As man, you will never have surcease from evil, but tracing your origin back to God, the I Am, will obliterate the man position entirely. The attempt to bring about improvements or healings in individual minds or bodies has proved a great benefit to mankind everywhere. Nevertheless, the real need is to ascend to the spiritual state where no healing is required. Definitely, the human viewpoint must be changed for the divine. Then the cause of all discord will be removed. No war could ever exist of itself. No sickness, sin, or death appear. But for the untruth that we are man instead of God. Lo, to be God, to be mind, to be life eternal, is the only perfect and universal remedy. The statement, quote, I am God, and besides me there is none else, has, as it were, two sides to it, both conveying the exact same meaning. That is, one, I am God. Two, there is none else. In seeing that God, the Self, or I Am, is all perfection, all harmony, and all completeness, necessarily this view includes the vision and knowledge that there is none else. Likewise, in viewing any apparent discords or limitations, we come to understand their nothingness on the basis that the Self, the I Am life and intelligence is all there is. Comprehending the fullness of this statement, we, the Self, must then prove all things. Many would like to have explained to them why war, sickness, and limitations of all kinds appear in the world, and still it be true that God fills all space. This is absolutely impossible of comprehension or elucidation without the superlative knowledge that God, the I Am that I Am, is one whole, including infinite identity. Generic man, so styled, alone is responsible for every war, sickness, sin, poverty, and limitation appearing today. He alone brings them into chemical existence, names the forms they present, sustains and supports them. Not until he wakens as from death to life, even as did the prodigal, will he ever understand their total inexistence and be free. How is he the cause of war or sickness? He thinks he is a man, a person or individual, and not the way, the truth, and the life, the self, ever perfect and immaculate. Because of this improper idea of himself and of all else, he becomes, as it were, another being called man, whose intelligence is limited and incomplete, whose life is mutable and insecure, whose body is material and mortal, whose world is finite and impermanent, functioning in a perverse and fabulous position. His thoughts are imperfect and illogical, inefficient and incorrect, confused and deranged. Thus they result in mythical forms of wars and of discord of every sort, kind and nature. The formations of his thoughts truly represent his assumptive departure from the real state. For instance, many of the things which he invents, instead of proving an eternal blessing to him, often in the end turn upon and destroy him. None of his inventions ever reach perfection, but always lack it. Hence the continual discard of his own handiwork for that which will completely satisfy. Never shall he produce it in a world of his own making. Never shall he achieve permanent success, invulnerable security, nor impeccable health and wholeness, whilst to himself he remains a limited human being or a separate individual identity. Disowning his real entity as the almighty creative mind, with its unlimited power to create everything perfect and good, he becomes to his false belief a weak, sinful mortal, ever seeking that perfection which is his true selfhood, always at hand and within him, yet ever finding uncertainties, wars, tribulations, death. Not until he rises to accept his true state, the free and unlimited whole, shall he ever experience that which he seeks, namely heaven, for heaven and the self are one. The great verity eternally remains, infinite ego with a capital E, and infinite identity are one indivisible whole, perfect, absolute, complete. Never have I been man, neither a material nor a spiritual one. Never am I subject to limitations of any kind. Now and always, I and myself are one and identical. Waken, be born again, arise, come forth. What else is there to do? What else is there to be said? No other directions would be of any real value to one in a far country. Nothing but the perception that man is an assumptive position of the self will prove the great answer to the riddle of evil and confirm the eternal verity. I am God, and there is none else. Cast out devils. The command cast out devils may now be put into practice, for now we can execute it with spiritual vision and divine authority. The devils are the generic false beliefs which have continued since the beginning of time, of which individualism is foremost. Christ taught that all reality is one, without parts or differences. Hence the irreconcilableness of ourself with the human mind or individuality. Conversely, Generic man sets forth the doctrine of apotheosis, the deification of a human mind. To disclaim any allegiance to personalities and human doctrines brings one face to face with the flaming illumination and conviction that there is no other but the universal self. This one demands our full attention. Indeed, we need to clear our vision until nothing is left before it but the perfect self and its perfect expression. On the other hand, or from the viewpoint of seeing there is nothing else, it is now easy to understand that the discordant forms called disease, poverty, or inharmony of any kind have no God in them. Hence, they have no life in them, no action, no power. But what originates their appearance? It can be traced directly to erring thinking and feeling. For this, for this it is in form. This thinking, however, is altogether fabulous, since founded upon the mistaken assumption that there is a mind or consciousness other than the one which is God, and that such evil thoughts have power. The great realism remains intact. The only mind or consciousness we have is that which is God. Hence there can be and is no discordant form, no erring thinking, no other mind, life, or being. By virtue of the fact that God is all and there are no other personal thinkers, then all results attributed to them are mythical and spectral, void of existence. Consider the prevalent plague of Japanese beetles. Let us see in such particular instance what must be cast out. Do they express or represent life? Are they one with that life which is God, the whole? No. To be sure, they fly about, have pretty colors, and apparently the same life as us. But just what do they represent? They image the thoughts, actions, and feelings of nations and peoples at war with one another. Herein is fulfilled the prophecy of Jesus when he said, quote, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places." To claim that God life in any way includes a form of life which is a pest is to misinterpret existence. Moreover, instead of giving such insects the same life that we are to cast out the form of life which they seem to have, and disclaim any reality to it. Taking away their semblance of life, by understanding that they image ignorance, disobedience, darkness, and deception, which have no life or reality in them, they fade into nothingness. Practicing this viewpoint, the author has recently seen such a demonstration take place. The beetles, which were attacking trees in the garden, were found thereupon lifeless. A slight touch of the branch, and they fell from the leaves onto the ground, dust to dust. Jeremiah proclaimed, quote, "Every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood." and there is no breath in them. Ezekiel had a similar vision when he wrote, quote, "Cast away from you all your transgressions whereby ye have transgressed, and make you a new heart and new spirit. For why will ye die, O house of Israel?" They made the images of their abominations and of their detestable things therein. A plague or pestilence portrays avarice, destruction, warfare, strife, hate, greed, all based upon the root error that mind can be multiple, that life can be separated into human beings who can be at war with one another. Penetrating these farce, we annihilate everything which is built around it. Forms appearing in a dream are nothing, hence the dream is nothing. No dream signifies no dreamer, the self alone is all. We must therefore be mind and see truly, also enforce such knowledge and vision. As mind, we shall understand that there is no self-constituted evil, that all so-called evil in the world is nothing but forms of discord and disorder, appearing because we do not take our true state as mind and utilize our divine knowledge and power. Since we are mind, the thinker, we have the ability to see dreams of disease, discord, or limitation as totally void of life, truth, intelligence, power, or presence. We understand them as nothing at all. As the self or mind, we assert our prerogative to be a law unto ourselves, that nothing can be with us that is not wholesome, perfect, and pure. Quote, "Rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven." Luke 10:7. Thus spake Jesus to those who he sent forth to preach and to heal. Rejoice not over demonstrations, but rejoice because you have found yourself and everyone to be the truth and the life. How we should rejoice and be glad. Jesus' treatment was administered as the spoken word, the word of power, the word of command. The self speaks to the self with power and authority, saying, "Come forth." Joyously, the self hears the self and responds. From out the depths of love divine, the word comes forth and is fulfilled. It does not consider personalities, nor mental inhibitions, nor seek to change any so-called consciousness. The word springs from the self, and is the self, and is the authority thereof. The self is without limitation of any kind, without discrepancy or discrimination. It is power, almighty. It sees itself as the unconditioned, the free and irresistible, always. Know thyself. Love thyself. Who is there in heaven and earth but thyself? Say not, I am, except in the name of the One, the Self who was and is and ever shall be, in whom there is no dream, no opposition of any kind. I am love. I am understanding. I am peace. I am abundance at every point alike. I am the demonstration of eternal good, always. Nothing can be added to me, nor taken from me. I and my creation are one and fill immensity. Quote, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. The Lord is the infinite ego with a capital E. His name is one, and his identity one. His harmony is one, his activity one. Quote, if God be for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. No one, no thing, there is none to oppose, none to be contrary, none to be separated. The divine consciousness reigns and is all. Knowing this ever-existent fact of being, the Christ confidently commanded, quote, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Mark 16:15. Dear friends, let us obey our Redeemer. Let us preach the gospel of oneness and allness to everyone who will listen to it. Let us teach the message of ontology, indivisible perfection, completeness, I amness. Let us admonish all to stop thinking from the premise of man seeking for his good. Instead, take the rightful state of the self, alive forevermore. Once accepting our true state, we are bound to come into increasingly fuller light and revelation until, quote, they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Revelation 22:4-5. Raise the dead. Since I am the perfect self, then I must speak as the perfect self. I must see as the perfect self. I must hear as the perfect self and no other. Speaking as the perfect self, the one ego, what shall I say? I shall say I am perfect, I am complete, I am whole, I am creative, I am prosperous, I am successful, I am happy, fearless, glad, I am the truth, understanding, realization, I am life, I am light, I am love. Seeing as the infinite ego, the one mind, immaculate, what do I see? I see my identity as wholeness, harmony, immortality, beauty, loveliness, charm. I see joyous activities, spontaneous delights, limitless fullness everywhere. Hearing as the perfect one, the infinite ego. What is it that I hear? I hear the voice of myself saying, I am all, I am free, I am triumphant, I am supreme. Accepting infinite ego and its infinite identity as the one universal whole, we rise from death into the experience of life, immortal and eternal. For who are the dead? Those gone from our sight and hearing. No, for who are the dead? Those gone from our sight and hearing? No, the dead are they who stay in darkness, assuming identities of separate thinking individuals. When Jesus said, I am the truth, all power is given unto me in heaven and on earth, he was speaking as the one ego, not as an individual thinker or human being. He refuted the spectrality called sin, disease, or death. With the might of the self as the truth and the light, he was the disproof thereof. At one time, while he was elucidating the subject of mental darkness, he said, quote, but while man slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Matthew 13:25. So-called individual thinkers are liable to any distressing dreams or experiences as long as they continue with such assumption. The discerner Paul, following up this viewpoint of the Christ, proclaimed, quote, awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Ephesians 5:14. Inevitably, ontology must now come. It presents the great reality, infinite self or ego, one and indivisible I and the self, one and all. How it enriches us, how it exalts us, how it glorifies us. Truly, we are filled with satiety. Quote, the dead shall be raised incorruptible. 1 Corinthians 15:52. To raise oneself from the dead and to ascend, we must put aside absolutely and altogether the generic idea that we are other than God, the perfect whole, in whom no evil of any kind exists. We must accept the eternal verity that the self is without shadow of turning, ever complete in every way, absolute, almighty, supreme. Quote, we shall be changed in vision, thought and belief, from the spectral to the actual, from the unreal to the real, from the false to the true, from man to the self. Quote, Then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, Death is swallowed up into victory. Lo, we have reverted to the self, to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lillian de Waters, The Great Answer, 1940. End of book.